So here we are again. It's number 20 of Café Courage. Courageous stories from the work life or the life in general. It's, as you hear me talking in my broken English, it's the English edition. And it's my pleasure to welcome Bruno to our show. In fact, we share a former employee. For me, it's still one, but there might be differences in opinion, whether that makes sense or not. Anyway, Bruno comes with us as a very curious mind, eternal explorer, and someone who has made some very courageous steps in the past. We'll talk about courage to listen, courage to trust, courage to start stuff, and to hang on to stuff, walking the talk. And as always, I'm not alone. Rainer's there.
Not alone. Yeah, you never walk alone, Bastian, and that's one of the good things, that we all do not walk alone. And I'm so happy to have Bruno today with us. I miss the guy really, as you said. We were working together a lot. Yeah.
Let's bring him in.
Yeah. So here he comes. Salut, Bruno.
Salut.
Greetings to the French Alps.
Hello.
Sun in the face, smiling in the face as always. Bruno, for the guys out there who do not know you, how would you describe yourself, or probably the path you have taken?
Wow. I think I will go very short then. Just someone curious about life in general, and about the impact of work on our daily lives, the amount of time it represents, the amount of connections, of emotions linked to the working environment. And I try to make sense of all these experiments, discoveries, to try to improve myself, be a better human, be a better citizen, be a better friend, brother, partner, everything. I would say, I prefer to say it like that than just, I did industrial engineering, blah blah blah.
So you are the engineer with a big heart, and you name yourself an impact entrepreneur, Bruno. What is this, an impact entrepreneur, for you?
Yeah, an impact entrepreneur is someone who starts something, so around a social or an environmental cause at heart. So basically, for me, there is a difference with impact entrepreneurs for impact and impact entrepreneurs. I'm more an entrepreneur for impact because I use really as the starting point a social and environmental issue. And around that, I try to build a business model and then to find a product or a service that fits to this business model. Whereas today, what you see on the market is impact entrepreneurs are usually companies that are running businesses in a capitalistic way and try to add some features, like some environmental features, like a certification, like a donation program, but they don't change really the core of what business is today from a capitalistic view. So it's really just to make profit, but they try, to make it sound nice, a bit better. I've chosen to go the other way around, to start from the problem and see how can the business can answer to these problems, which I think is a quite different way of doing entrepreneurship.
Now I'm curious. What was the problem you selected? Or maybe it selected you? How did you find it?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, I mean, I've started a lot of things. I've tried a lot of stuff. Currently, what I'm focusing on is on waste pollution, so mostly plastic pollution. and I combine that with homelessness. So we have two issues today. The first one on plastic is, of course, we have a lot of pollution, of plastic pollution, and we basically say that in 2050 there will be more plastic in the sea than fish. And the other problem on the social causes, so on homelessness, is that after doing a lot um, of projects or going into the street to distribute food and create some food baskets, drinks for homeless, to distribute them to help them to have something to eat or to drink.
Mhm.
I have realized that there is a problem uh, around how we try to help these people. Basically, we feed them, we give them food, more or less. We give
Mhm.
them solutions to stay more or less clean. But the core thing of homelessness is in the name, homeless. They don't have homes. And they
Mhm.
basically stay maybe in a better shape, but they stay outside.
Mhm.
So, what I've tried to do is, first of all, to build a bridge with social justice and climate justice, because for me, those two topics are treated separately and they should not be, because they are not. And so I've said, okay, how can I mix these two topics together into one solution? And then I've created around this a vision, a mission powered by values. And around that, as I explained before, I've built a business model. And around this business model, then I say, okay, how can I materialize this business model to solve these two issues at once? And this is how I have created that, actually, which is Igloo. It's a zero waste brand that is created to create donations. So when I sell one
Mhm.
bottle, I give more than what I earn. So initially in the model, you give 15% of the profit minimum. Today, and it exists now for 2 years, I give 100% of the profits. So all the money I make with that
Mhm.
goes to donation to an association
Mhm.
that buys homes for homelessness. And because they own the properties, they can really take people out of the street, put them in the homes, give them the help they need. Sometimes it takes 6 months, sometimes it takes 3 years, but at least when they leave the house, they leave it for good and they won't return to the streets. They won't be homeless again. And this is really how I've chosen to, um, at least for this project, to try to challenge, how do we do business, also what's the meaning of business, what is the purpose of business. Is
Mhm.
it today just to make profit and raise big money and have a big value and earn a lot of money, or is it really to make business as a force for good and make it at the service of the planet and to the people? So I've tried to challenge that. So the role of business, how do we innovate? How to create companies, not based on how much profit will I make, how will I scale, how will I exit, but how do I solve a problem at core initially? So around that, I do some other things on the side. But today, as we speak about impact entrepreneurship, at least we studied on that. The best example I have is this business model, which is actually materialized in a bottle.
And Bruno, just probably being the agent provocateur right now. So what I hear is you're selling a thing, but it's not, you're not taking out something. What are you doing for living? So I hear very often, and then I guess it's the classical approach. Yeah, you need to run a business in order to have your own life. You pay your bills. So I've understood that was not the purpose of this kind of business. So who's paying then your bills? How does it fit together?
The universe. No, actually, I do pay my bills, of course. And how do I pay them? I have a consulting freelance activity on the side. where I do consulting on CSR topics, so sustainability, where I help people set or people companies, so small companies, SMEs, because I've
Mm.
chosen not to work with big groups anymore, for all the reasons you can imagine, and where I advise them, create for them also products and systems to measure the environmental footprint, the environmental footprint of their products, to get certifications as well, like B Corp, like EcoVadis, also to prepare for audits like ISO 19001, quality management system,
Mm.
14001, environmental management system, and also write impact reports, and help them also to set up in place overall sustainability strategies. So this is one of my activity as a freelance, but I also do innovation for impact. So
Mm.
here my customers are more startup accelerators, like Paris and Co in France, or um, Make Sense, Station F, like, or um, SMEs that want to have their own incubator program or intrapreneurship program. So I basically help them to define a program, how to um, build innovations, but based on what I just explained before, starting from
Yeah, yeah, understood.
environmental and social causes, and not my business is I don't know, cars, and we want to have a motor that is more efficient in order to reduce CO2. I say, okay, we want to reduce our CO2 emissions. We have these issues and that. How can we make a business model around that? And then see if a new motor will be the solution. So I really try to flip the chart, and go the other way around. So
Yeah,
this is basically what I do,
and
and
and,
that's
and
what
I
pay
really,
my bills today.
yeah, and I really find it interesting that Amadou just posted the saying from Denzel Washington: "Don't just aspire to make a living, aspire to make a difference." And that's what I
Mm.
hear, that you say, okay, on the one hand side, I'm able to sell my knowledge, give it to others, but for the problem, to reduce homelessness, the only solution is really to make this impact on that side. And here I don't take my count in this
Hmm.
business.
Yeah, and I think I also follow another quote that actually I've heard the first time in Airbus is lead by example, and always try to, yeah, to do what you say, basically, and I preach that every day, and I want that, but I don't see many people doing it, and that's why I've chosen, okay, if not me, who? And if
Mhm.
not now, when? So I said, okay, now I have the luxury and the knowledge and the liberty and the space, the energy to do it, and I don't want to regret. I want to live my life. I don't want to survive. I want really to look at myself in the mirror and say, okay, I don't know where this goes, and maybe it will go nowhere, but at least I have tried. You know. But of course, I don't plan for failure. I plan for success. But we never know, as I always say. At the end of the day, the market chooses if it works or not. You can build the best solution, the best product. At the end of the day, there is a big place for luck. But now also, I do everything I can to build the best solutions with what I have to put them on the market, and then I trust the universe, to make it happen. Not forcing the things, not going trying to get the customers, get traction, more doing my things, explaining what I do, and just welcoming things how they
Mhm.
come. And actually, this is very funny because it's been 3 years now. I'm freelance. I've never built a website, a portfolio. Everything comes through connections, and I'm full until June already.
Yeah, so it's true that the universe takes care of you.
But you have to take care of the universe as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Bruno, I can remember when we were sitting in Barcelona because we just met us there by
Mhm.
coincidence or by the universe, and there was a friend of mine like, yeah, okay, you have this bottle, can I buy 1,000 pieces? And you say, why do you need 1,000 pieces? So it was like he was shocked to say, well, I want to buy 1,000 things, so just give it to me. And you said, "Wait, do you really need 1,000 pieces? If you need 1,000 pieces, I will sell it to you. But if you only want to have it on stock or do something with it, there is no need to produce 1,000 pieces." And this really, I was touched at that moment because I saw the face of the guy, and myself, I was like thinking, yeah, he's right. Damn, he's right.
I don't know if it's right, but for me, it sounds right, you know. And
Mm.
today, it's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to, I don't sell this to anyone. I sell to anyone who has a need for it. And I
Mm.
really question the need. If today you go on the website, I have 5 questions. Do you really need it? La la la. Did you check? Do you already have a bottle? Do you have a friend? And if really you need it, I sell it to you. But if you buy it as well and you discover you don't need it, I buy it back because I don't want to produce something. It's not, you know, um, it's not a painting. It's not made to be on a shelf and stay there. It's
Mm.
made to be used, you know, and that's why it's strong. That's why it's made for multi-use. That's why you don't have colors on it because it can last, you know, every fashion. You
Hmm.
Mm.
can decorate it, whatever. And the question behind the need is so important for me because I want to use business as a tool to answer a need and not to create needs or envy or a fashion. And this is also at the core of impact
Mm.
entrepreneurship, you know?
Mm.
And this is also where, if I just dig a little bit more, if you check most of the startups today or companies calling themselves impact startups, they have to sell a lot. Why?
Hmm.
Because they need to pay salaries, to pay stuff. So they still go the normal way. And I'm not blaming them, you know, because they believe it is great. And in some cases, it is great. But they are still stuck in the system of I need to produce, I need to sell to be able to
Hmm.
survive.
Mm.
And this is where I challenge, you know, a lot. Okay, I don't want to sell something for the sake of selling it, even though there is a donation, because
Mm.
that will kill the core of the whole business model. You know,
Mhm.
not sure if
Bruno,
I'm
I
too
know,
clear about it, but
Bruno, I know that you're telling this, not only the story, but this way of how you're doing that kind of business in front of students in some universities or in business schools. How, what is the response when you tell this? What are the questions the guys asking you? Because I feel like this is so different from what they learn in books or from their regular teachers. It must, I don't know if it's a shock or not, but I can feel that there might be a crack, at least, in their belief.
yeah, I must say at the very beginning, the first answer was like, "Okay, you're crazy," or or what you're saying is dangerous. Um,
Uh-huh.
but that's also the reason why I've built this business model and materialize it with a product, because I can show the numbers. I can
Mhm.
show really that I do
Mhm.
and that it works, you know. Okay, of
Mhm.
course it doesn't work like it will never be Patagonia because it's not the aim,
Who
and
knows?
also Patagonia is not perfect, you know, in many ways. But they are quite interested, you know, because the students I have in engineering schools, business schools, and some of them, like, I'm also an alumni of these schools, and most of them are top 10, so they are like quite educated people. They are educated about these issues. They know, but they need the proof, a living proof that it works, and most
Mm.
of all, they need to see someone who incarnates these values, these ideas, because most, as I said, most 99% of the businesses today, they believe that they like the ideas, but they don't implement them because
Mm.
again, they need to make money to survive because they are built to make profit still, not to make an impact. And yeah, and what's funny again, it's like today I start as a professor now on Monday in a business school. Before I was just a consultant coming from time to time giving speeches and presentation, and now I start my own course in one of this big business school and in an engineering school as well, and then they talk to each other, so it starts to get mainstream. And I think students, they don't want, um sorry for the word, but like the old bullshit, they
Mhm.
want the real. And I'm not saying I'm giving the truth, but at least I give my truth and an alternative, and when I say it, I see that it resonates with what people would like to see a bit more, and they are more open to challenge the status quo. And in this case, today for me it's not so hard like the beginning to to keep this headline, like we need to flip the chart and do things the other way around. It's more welcomed. I get much more traction. I have a lot of requests also to speak about that, to show the results. So yeah, in short, I think I think it's kind of the the next uh, the next big trend. How to reinvent marketing, how to reinvent business, how to um, uh, um, yeah, reinvent the way we sell, or we innovate, because at some point we won't have the choice. I mean, we have planetary boundaries. There are seven out of them are already out of. I mean, we will reach all the limits for sure, and overshoot them. This is clear. At some point, there won't be enough materials to produce everything we want. So
Mhm.
and people are much more aware about that now, and the schools, because they are supposed to build the future um, workers, leaders. Um, they understand that, and they try to bring slowly but surely this new way of thinking and of doing. And I think it's very positive. But also because the students now, in France, for example, they strike a lot. They go to the the
I've
dean
heard
of the
that.
school and they say, yeah, we don't want that, we don't want this. No, now we want to discuss about that. We don't want to have marketing that way. We want to see new ways of doing things and so on. Don't teach us the old stuff. They don't work. We know they don't work,
Mhm.
or they
Mhm.
work just for marketing.
We see what the outcome is if we continue. So show us something different.
Hmm.
Yeah, and for me, Bruno, taking probably this thought and say, okay, a student who runs his degree, then he starts in a company. How can this survive inside a structure where it's not built for this? I believe that in university, probably it's much easier than in a classical environment where the head of marketing tells him, guy, silent, shut up. That's the way how we do business. And probably the main engineer is saying something similar in this area. So how is it possible to, well, plant the seeds in big existing corporations? Is
Hmm.
it possible that there grows something, or what's needed for the existing environment that here this little shift takes place?
Yeah. Well, my view on that, I will share two things. The first thing is something I believed and I've tried in a big company that you both know, uh, is to start something within a company, and that matters because that shows that we can do things and that we have to do things, and it's so important to have people doing that. But it has to be done in a way where you show what are the benefits for the company. So you still need to have the business acumen to
Mm.
show, if it's a pure capitalistic company and the uh, um, basically the purpose is to make money, you have to find a way to sell to find a way to sell your idea in a way that is good for the people, the planet, but that also brings them money, because otherwise they won't be interested, and
Yeah.
for them it's going to be philanthropy.
Yeah.
And
Without a business case, there is
yes,
nothing.
so this is really where I think if you start something in a company, you want it to have an impact, you need to bring the money in the game, and you need to get them with the money. And everything I did in a famous company where I worked before, the hook was always the money. But I was touching very big numbers, and that's why I got traction, and that's why I got uh, C-level sponsorship and everything, because I touched them with the money. But behind I mean, the secret plan was to get them with the money, but to impact them with the product and the model. And this is really where I'm not sure they have really understood that, but I saw that if I get them with that, I can do everything I want on that, because they are
Mm.
so obsessed with the money. They will see how much money we can save, that I basically have a blank page where I can play as much as I want and start to give the mind shift uh, on on social impact, environmental impact, how to design a game that is low consumption, that increase happiness at work while working, stuff like that. So that's the first thing I wanted to share. Um, and the second thing is also to try outside of the company. How did it work for me? Actually, it's I was launching ideas that some of them became companies outside of my usual job, so on my free time, and it started to work. And then people say, okay, what are you doing? Are you still working for this company, or do you have your own I don't get it. Say I do both. And then say,
Yeah.
okay, so you develop these skills, competencies, and these case studies and learnings, but it has nothing to do with your daily job. I said, yeah, and so what? And then at some point, sometimes someone in this company said, well, I think these skills could be very useful in your daily job. So what about applying them there?
Mm.
So here you use um, your free time basically to test things and learn things and try to change things. Um, and and then you have different scenarios. Either one project outside gets more traction and creates more, I don't know, interest, and then you can leave your initial job and focus on your private project, or you can try to bring what you have learned outside inside your company. But the big difference in this case is that you are backed by external people that that recognize your courage, your expertise, or your specialty, or your brand, and that gives you credit to speak about it inside the company. A bit like exactly like what you are doing with Café Courage, basically.
Yeah. And then there was this moment where, well, you went away, or at least you're not working for the company anymore.
Yeah.
And I know that you had your reasons, and you were talking about the reasons very openly.
Hmm.
How was the reaction you got?
Very, very positive. So first, I want to explain very quick why I did that, because I'm for transparency. And I think people should share the stories, how they felt, and positively, but also, of course, the negative points. And in my case, I wanted to say that was an amazing time. I mean, I've met you guys. I've learned so many things. I've met some of the smartest people I've ever met. Some of the kindest people. Some of them are really close, very very close friends. Um, and but I also wanted to show what is the hidden door behind big companies, and what it means. And I think it's just fair. It was not to judge or to blame. It was just to say, okay, this is how this happened to me.
Mm.
And then from there, I believe when you share your story, people can relate or not, and they can start to think: do I recognize myself in this story? Do I ask myself the same questions or not? Does it make sense? That is it important to me? But it all starts with the story. If you don't share the story, people can't relate, and the story is never told, and the seed is never, shared, or you never, um, there is no starting point. So initially, that's why I've shared that. And to answer your question, when I started to share that, I got 500 or 600 crazy like amounts of private messages from people working in this industry, from C level, and I assure you, from, I mean, I think the C level to VP to very basic, and I don't do hierarchy, but just to tell you
Mhm.
that what I was sharing was touching everyone, or in a way that they all recognize the same issues. But the big difference is that because I left the company, I was more entitled and allowed to speak freely and say these things, rather, whereas the people who wrote me say, I absolutely agree with you, and here maybe not so much, but my experience is different. But I can't like or comment your post because it's dangerous for my job. It's dangerous for my career,
Mm.
and I can't back you up. And that really broke my heart, because what does it say? It says that you are in a company where you can talk about the problems. So what does it say about the leadership, the culture in this company, and I don't just speak about this specific company. I had messages from many other people working in, basically, in big corporates, and they are telling me, we can't speak about the problems, we can't speak about that. And they were really frustrated. And then I realized, okay, then I need to continue to speak about that, because
Mhm.
maybe they will also speak up. Maybe they will say, okay, now we need to change things, because, yeah, come on, we work 80,000 hours, in our life, I think,
Mhm.
8 hours a day. We spend more time with our colleagues than with our wives, husbands, or whatever. Come on, the workplace has to be a place where we feel safe, where we feel heard, where we can contribute. And what I got as a feedback is, we can't speak about that. We can't do anything. If we do something, it's meaningless. It doesn't change anything in the business. And yeah, overall, this is basically the feedbacks I had, and that's why I've continued to share my story about it.
And very often I see yourself that you're marking some of the shiny posts of various companies in different brands with the hashtag like greenwashing. And you explain why you feel this is greenwashing, or probably not feel because you know it that it's greenwashing. Um, I wouldn't know because probably I read it in a different way, or I just follow the marketing question. So,
Yeah.
why are you doing this?
So when I just post greenwashing, it means I'm too busy to explain. But I want the tag to be here, so it's tagged. So if someone are following the hashtag, at least they can go. It changes, but slowly, of course. Yeah. Hi, Andre. But of course, in the perfect world, I would love to take the time to explain everything. But sometimes I'm just scrolling through, commuting to
Mhm.
client's office. But I just want to show that, for me, the end line, it's greenwashing. And if I see that there are interest or people start to ask questions, then I come and I discuss with the person. I take the time. But initially, when I just give this hashtag, it's just to flag it. So
Mm,
people, they can relate and ask themselves, why did this guy post greenwashing?
Mhm.
Because first they all already ask themselves why, either personally, yeah, why this stupid guy is posting just greenwashing, and I don't care, it's okay. Or they really ask themselves, why greenwashing, and then they start to dig, and then they understand by themselves. So just by tagging in, that's the first case. But in some other cases where I really take the time, I try to explain and share some sources, some studies where I give numbers, facts, and figures, why I claim this is greenwashing or impact washing or pink washing, or
Yeah.
every kind of washing you want. But the only reason why I just post greenwashing, it means I was too, I don't have the time, but I want to flag it. And when I take the time, when there is a conversation, interest, I take the time to explain and go step by step.
Interesting, because I had the opportunity to meet someone from the AXA Climate School in relationship with the week I'm hosting or I'm supporting as an enthusiast, and it was touching me really deep that the guy said, yes, AXA has created this climate school to sell um, training to companies because their mathematicians, they are so clear that if it really comes to a point where it's the degrees between 2 and 3, there is no business model anymore for an insurance. It's all gone. Either no one can buy it or they can't really secure the costs for insurances.
Mm.
And that was like, what? It's so clear to a lot of people, and still in this regular business world, it's so hard to find a way, as you have mentioned. Yeah, there must be the hook about the money.
Mhm. Bruno, you talked about some forces in big corporates, the force to make more money in the startup business, possibly growth and growing to get more money, to pay more, to maybe be seen more as a successful entrepreneur. Um, Knowing that there are a lot of forces around us, and sometimes doing the opposite is can be frightening, can have unforeseen consequences,
Mhm.
takes courage. What was the moment in your on your journey which took the most courage?
Oof. I think that started like back before my career in aerospace, when I was living in China. I was basically doing factory audits. So ISO 19 quality management system, environmental management system. And I was 25 something, like good job, good money, expatriate. So okay, perfect life. And I was traveling a lot, taking the plane almost, yeah, every week to go to the factories to do the audits. And I was auditing a factory that was making stools. And while I was going to do the audit, I saw some kids walking down the street, near the factory. And I didn't pay attention to it at first. I realized afterwards. I arrived, like agenda, blah blah blah. I said, okay, now we go on the factory in a production, and we check the production site. And I saw that the working tables were super low, like almost around my, and I'm not so tall, huh? Around my knees basically. And I said, is there a problem with the tables? They say, oh, no, it's just we changed the process. And then I started to sit, and I realized the tables were made for kids.
Hmm.
And I was one of my best supplier. I said, okay. Then I just realized the kids, they were not coming back from school. They were leaving the factory before I came for the audit.
Hmm.
Anyway, I was a bit shocked. I finished the audit, like report, blah blah blah. I didn't really notice. So, and I went back home with my plane, my driver and stuff. I mean, with the plane for everyone, not my private plane. and and I don't know why I had this feeling, wanted to throw up. And I was like, okay, what am I contributing to? I'm encouraging that, by doing this job, and allowing my employer to work with this company. And I worked, and I highlighted these issues in the past, in my audits. But because the prices were so interesting and they had so much volume, and say, yeah, we work with them anyway. And I remember I said, okay, I quit the job. So the day after, I put my paper on my manager's desk. Okay, I quit. And that's how I arrived in aerospace, because I thought, okay, quality can be a huge trigger, a huge leverage to reduce waste, but to check also that the working conditions are acceptable for everyone. I say, okay, who's the best in that? Aerospace. So, okay, I want to work in aerospace to learn from the best. And this is how I went to Lean Six Sigma, statistics and stuff. Um, so I arrived in this sector a bit like with utopia, like, wow, everything should be great. And then over the years, I discovered what's the reality. And I had this shock again, but not as hardcore like I had in China. I was like, okay, I tried to change stuff, but I'm no one. And even the big ones, like, that's also why it was a strategy to get a C-level sponsorship, to see if a C-level can change things just by saying things and saying, I don't care, we do this and you don't. And I realized that it doesn't work, because again, a C-level is not alone to decide in the end. They also have to give to answer to questions to the CFO, then to the CEO, to follow the strategy, to blah blah blah, to this and that. And if you do this, you have consequences on this and on that and on this budget. And that's also when I realized, okay, I've tested all the assumptions to make this, try to see if this company can change, and not just a tiny bit, but can really make a shift. I said, okay, it's too hardcore for me, and I don't feel like staying, because my conclusion is, I will need to have so many people involved or do a career in this company, to try to influence, do a lot of politics. I say it's not me, um, and that's why I left the company. So to answer in a short way, I answer in two times. The first time when I had the first shock, and the second one is when I realized that, and this is what I've explained in my post on LinkedIn, why I left the company, where I explain all the assumptions I've tried, all the case studies, and all the findings I have found. And then I ask myself, okay, am I happy with that? Can I stay? And I realized like an audit. And I checked the chart. Okay, this doesn't fit, doesn't fit, doesn't fit, doesn't fit. Everything was doesn't fit. I say, okay, why do I stay? And then the last question, do I stay for the money? No. I sold one of my company in 2019. Say, okay, I don't need this. I don't need the money from this company. Can I leave without too many risks? I say, okay, yes. And that's why I've left. But the trigger was really the answering to all these questions one by one. It took me 3 years, to test everything. And but yeah, the conclusion was clear. My job in this company is done. Yeah.
Bruno, this sounds a bit like really sad to me, that I feel like no one inside a company or the structure has the opportunity to change something. And I would not like to believe this. Otherwise, it makes no sense. Do you see a point of leverage for those big existing corporations, that this kind of leverage will take a shift? So is it probably the shareholders, the investing guys, that they say, well, we invest only if you do?
I would love to say yes, but honestly, my opinion is that as long as the main goal of a company is to make profit, to make rich people richer, uh, it won't work. And I see that in many, like, look at life insurances, even the green ones. The products inside, everything is crap. I mean, they invest No, seriously, I mean, just look at it. Really, look at the
Mm.
portfolio. It's behind. Maybe it's, yes, solar, blah blah blah, but behind that, it's Total Energy. Like, it's big fossil fuel companies. It's big banks that invest in fossil fuel, that invest in a in a waste waste incineration, stuff like that. Because today the market, we don't have clean, or let's say, the clean solutions. They don't have a return on investment of 6, 7, 10% per year. They have two, maybe 2.5%, because they go slow, because
Mm.
they go in a, not in a way to make profit, but in a way to grow naturally, to go with time, to take the time to know the employees, to know the clients, to know the market, to develop products when it's needed, and not just to create profit again. So I would love to say yes, but my opinion today is not so positive. It's like, if they don't switch
Mm.
to from profit to impact, and be careful here, because it doesn't mean because you focus on impact that you don't make money. You have so many people and companies, and I'm one of the example. For
Mm.
example, like, if I'm my own company, I focus just on impact, I make money, and
Mhm.
I'm okay,
Mm.
to say, okay, it's not a sin to make money, to make a living out of impact, but it's a fake, and it's a wrong belief, that when you work on these topics, you don't make money. Actually, many studies from Harvard, MIT, UCLA show
Mm.
that companies who integrate that and really go to the core of it are more successful and last longer. So,
And you're giving the example that any one of us could do that, and it doesn't need to be a big company. It's rather us to take action, is what I take from it.
Yeah, and Bastian, for me, it feels still weird somehow. Taking the example of Bruno and say, what is the problem? Okay, how can I solve the problem with
Mhm.
home and less? Then needs home and more. Okay, I have a product or I create a product, and this is product. This is just to create the solution, or this is the solution for the problem, and it feels weird.
Too simple.
Maybe yes, maybe yes. And I
Sometimes
like
so.
it because, as Bruno has said, well, you can grab it. It's tangible. You can see the books. You can see that
Mm.
it's working. And
Mm.
well, thank you, Bruno, for showing, at least to me, because it feels not so weird anymore after your
Yeah,
explanation.
it opened my eyes. I knew your product, but I didn't know the whole story. And the way you unpacked it put more than one seed, at least in my brain. Unfortunately, we need to come a bit towards the end of today's session. And it's like always, it's always, we could carry on, at least if it would be me, to for another hour. And we try to stick to a bit of the plan. One part of the plan is asking our guest at the end if he or she has some recommendations to people who listened into this, who heard up to this point, and maybe are just needing one little push and maybe 1, 2, 3 ideas what to do concretely to move forward. If they already
Mhm.
have an itch to go, what would you share with them?
Yeah, we talk about courage today, and I think we touch it in very concrete examples, but not so much into a macro view. So I will give more a macro view. I would say, just try to find the courage to listen to your inner voice. We have this instinct. Sometimes we know something is not right, like, and at some point, I was like, yeah, trying, to make sense out of it with equations, with logic, with mechanic, with whatever. And at the end of the day, you do the equation and you say, oh, yeah, I knew this was right. But then you lost all the time, to do all these things over the years to realize that, yes, your inner voice was right. So over the time, I would say, yeah, trust also your inner voice, trust yourself. I think everyone can do everything. I don't think someone is more. You have different kind of intelligence, talents, whatever. But I think everyone can learn anything. Um, so trust yourself, trust others as well. That they are not necessarily here to make your life difficult, but and also trust that in difficult feedbacks also there are some kindness because they want you to improve or whatever. Um, Find the courage also to walk the talk. So basically, to if you think something is right, try to incarnate it yourself, and not necessarily lead by example, but be an example, at least for yourself, just to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and be proud and be happy about it. And the last one is the find the courage to start basically, whatever it is, like just to start. And I would say it's more the general um, advice, because you can start to listen to your inner voice, you can start to trust, you can start to walk the talk, but everything starts with a step. And my sister always says, one step, one step, and baby step. It doesn't matter if, but you need to do a step, even though it's a micro step. At least you're going forward, Um, yeah, so that would be it. And three tools I would share. I would say, first of all, um, I think define the basics when you have, if at least if you want to build a business, the vision, the mission, the values, and plan the impact. So, what impact do you want to have? On environmental issues. But start really with this, because and don't build a business and then see how you can have impact. It can fit, but it's when your daily life as an entrepreneur is to earn money, impact becomes not a priority. It becomes invoicing becomes a priority. So start with that, I would say,
Mm.
really. But and also be ready to update them on a very regular basis, because the more you go, that's why I love with impact. It's so wide, you can't be an expert in everything. You learn every day from people, from things. The second thing will be um, to not be stuck in philosophical questions. Like, I spent months reading hundred of books, and I seriously, I could have written a PhD thesis on impact and so on, but I spent 6 months not doing anything, just learning stuff because I like learning, but I didn't do anything. So I would say, learn things, but don't be stuck into philosophical things. Go also into action. You can go and make some um, you learn, you try, like, test and learn, basically. Find an equilibrium, but don't be stuck in either only action, because then you have it's burnout, you owe no energy, no time. But also don't be stuck into philosophical things where you just think, oh yeah, maybe. And I call this intellectual masturbation. So don't be stuck in that as well. And the last one will be, surround yourself with like-minded people, and also be open to feedbacks. So I also go to fire, to get hard feedbacks, because when you're just between your group of friends who all believe the same things, it's nice, it's cool, but it's not the reality. It's the world you create for yourself, and this is not how the world is really. So, um, yeah, that will be my three main key takeaways or tools I would share.
Thank you, Bruno. Also, thank you
A
on
real
behalf of.
basket.
Thanks a lot to both of you. You see, I surround myself with like-minded people.
So do we.
Yeah.
If there is another question popping up now, you mentioned that you are supporting individuals, but for sure, small and medium sized companies. If someone is hearing this, viewing this, or maybe view it in the future, how do they get in touch with you to talk about some ideas
Yep,
to share?
very
Impactful
easy.
things.
Yeah, but are also, also not impactful, but are interested, because if I plant the seed,
Mm.
maybe they will not start the next SpaceX, or but maybe they will, but in a very different way. So open to everything. But basically, add me on LinkedIn, or I will drop my email. No, I don't drop my email on LinkedIn. So add me on LinkedIn or comment this video, and I will get in touch with you, so we can exchange.
Thank you very much, Bruno, for this almost an hour. I really appreciate your time, your thoughts, and walking the baby steps feels really cool because it's so linked to why we have started this as well. For us, for Bastian and myself, it was like, what is the thing that people need to get in action or to change something? It's really this little step of courage to overcome the fear for the first little baby step. So thank you very much for summing it up, Bruno, and
for all the stories. Thank you. Very, very inspirational.
Thanks.
It was a pleasure to have you. To everyone who connected, and everyone who will see this on YouTube or listen to it on a podcast. Happy to have you with us, and happy to hear your thoughts and also your recommendations. Who else should be here on the Café Courage? And if you don't have a bottle yet and you're still buying these ugly plastic ones, I know someone.
Or your friend has one.
If you need one.
Yeah, if you really need one, you're really sure about it. Bruno, what do you do?
Igloo.fr. IGLUU.fr. Or contact me through LinkedIn.
Yeah, and go through the personal process of explaining yourself why you really need one. Excellent. Have a wonderful time.
Thank you.
And see you again, maybe in the future, here in the Café Courage.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.